Kate Middleton and Prince William pay tribute to NHS heroes battling coronavirus crisis on visit to London Ambulance Service 111 call centre, as the Duke discusses doing future engagements by video link. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have become the first royals to visit coronavirus frontline health workers, as they met staff at a London NHS 111 call centre, and, in light of new social distancing rules, discussed the idea of remote conferencing for future royal visits. As they toured the call centre in Croydon, southwest London, on Thursday, the couple heard how the number of calls from the public had quadrupled since the crisis began. They listened intently as they were told that the 999 service has just had the busiest 3 days in its history, while the 111 advice helpline was receiving phenomenal levels of calls, with some members of the public panicking over self-isolation. The visit to the Croydon Centre, which deals with southeast London, saw William and Kate, dressed in a rose-pink trouser suit, adhering rigorously to the latest protocols about dealing with the disease. There was frequent hand sanitizing, a conscious effort to socially distance themselves from people, and no handshakes. Garrett Emerson, the chief executive of the London Ambulance Service, said William had suggested that royal visits might change as the virus progresses through the population. "We are all learning new ways of behaving socially as a result of this, and indeed new ways of working," he explained. "We were talking with the Duke about potential future visits if we are in further stages of social distancing. We may be doing remote conferencing for events like this. That's certainly a possibility in the coming weeks and months." While the couple sanitized their hands twice during the visit, one member of staff forgot the new rules when she asked William and Kate for a photograph and without thinking reached out to shake their hands. "Don't shake hands," William remonstrated with a laugh as he brought down his other hand to cut her off. But he swiftly added as they posed for a picture, "We can do a photograph if we are not within a meter of each other." Afterwards, Courtney Kemble, 32, a supervisor, laughed off her mistake. "That was so funny. I went to shake the hand. Coronavirus," she said. "I guess it's just polite, isn't it? In the professional environment we are so used to being greeted and shaking hands with each other." The Duke and Duchess heard how the 111 service was seeing a fantastic volume of demand. During a conversation with a group of staff, which saw William and Kate sitting more than 2 meters from everyone else to show the importance of social distancing, Ewan Flood, 34, a paramedic, told them how the 111 service was incredibly busy. He said, "We are getting calls one after the other. Currently we have a few hundred calls waiting to be called back, anything from a day to 2-3 days old. We are finding that people are quite understanding when we call them back. They are quite accepting that they know it's busy, they know it's going to be a long time. We try and get through them as quickly as we can, but safely as well." He added later, "We are hearing a lot of panic about self-isolation. People don't really understand the guidance, so we have to explain it to them fairly regularly. But once we explain it, people tend to understand why we are advising it." Dr. Agatha Nortley-Mesh, a GP and the Assistant Medical Director of the London Ambulance Service, told the couple the call centre had a multidisciplinary team with GPs, pharmacists, nurses and paramedics who were working extremely hard. She added, "Within the massive volume of calls, there are a lot of people asking for advice and reassurance. But there are also some really sick people in there. It's about making sure we get people to the right place, we get people the advice they need, we get people the care they need." However, the guidance they are given changes so quickly that the staff have to work hard to keep up to date with what they are supposed to be telling the public. The message was hammered home that the first thing people should do is look on the NHS website for advice before ringing 111. William asked, "I imagine that you are concerned that a lot of the public don't have internet access, therefore, having 111 to call is really important." Dr. Nortley-Mesh replied, "Online can only take you so far. If you need a clinician, you need a clinician." Kate asked how many of the calls reflected people's mental health issues. Mr. Emerson said, "Quite a large volume. People with mental health issues are more concerned about coronavirus and how to manage that." Dr. Nortley-Mesh said that other patients on regular medication were concerned that they would continue to get the drugs they needed. There has become a significant panic around making that if people are going to self-isolate, that they are prepared. All of those kinds of cares and concerns. That is adding to the workload. The Duke also repeatedly asked whether members of the public could help by volunteering. Mr. Emerson replied, "We are actively looking at that. We have a lot of former employees, retired employees, people who used to work in our service but are now in other fields, for instance the airline industry. As staff are laid off, they are saying, can we bring our skills back? It extends beyond call handling and front-line clinicians into support functions like vehicle maintenance. How to put more vehicles out there than we have probably ever done before. We are talking to other organizations about how they might be able to help us." "How quickly can you train up people to become call center volunteers?" William asked. Mr. Emerson replied, "In terms of call handling, pretty quickly." As the Duke and Duchess toured the large room where the call handlers work, but not before sanitizing their hands for a second time, William broke off from a conversation with Mr. Emerson to talk to two members of staff. Tracy Pidgeon, 54, said, "He was asking about how busy we have been, and what shifts everybody was doing. We were saying everybody was working really hard." She added that the visit had made William nostalgic for his old job as an air ambulance helicopter pilot. He misses the helicopter, being on the front line. He just said he misses it. Later Mr. Emerson was asked if William would be a useful addition to the ambulance service. He said with a smile, "As he knows well, we have an air ambulance service here in London. I know that he would be welcome there any time." Speaking after the visit, William revealed how keen he and Kate had been to pass on both their own thanks and that of his grandmother, the Queen, and father, the Prince of Wales, to those working on the front line. He said, "The last few weeks, and more recent days have been understandably concerning with the continuing spread of coronavirus. But it's at times like this when we realize just how much the NHS represents the very best of our country and society, people from all backgrounds and walks of life with different experiences and skills, pulling together for the common good." Not only are NHS staff and emergency workers responding to the needs of the public, they, like the rest of us, are concerned about their families, friends and loved ones. They need our support as much as we need theirs. That is why Catherine and I were proud to visit staff working at NHS 111, to pass on our personal thanks, along with those of my grandmother and father, to staff working around the clock to provide care and advice to those that need it most. It was also brilliant to see the great online tools for those with mild symptoms or worries. The future king also re-emphasized his grandmother's message that everyone needs to play their part and stressed that the public should listen to government advice on how to lessen the spread of the virus. He added, "All of us have a part to play if we're going to protect the most vulnerable. That means acting on the latest expert advice, staying home if we or those we live with have symptoms, and avoiding non-essential contact to help reduce the spread of the virus." Kate and William visit NHS workers on the front line battling coronavirus. Kate, Duchess of Cambridge and Prince William have visited NHS staff to thank them for the vital work they have been doing throughout the coronavirus outbreak. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge shared pictures from their visit to the London Ambulance Centre in Croydon on their Twitter account, Kensington Palace. The images were accompanied by a series of comments from Prince William, which read, "Catherine and I were proud to visit staff working at NHS 111, to pass on our personal thanks, along with those of my grandmother and father, to staff working around the clock to provide care and advice to those that need it most. The last few weeks, and more recent days have been understandably concerning with the continuing spread of coronavirus. But it's at times like this when we realize just how much the NHS represents the very best of our country and society." Kate and William spoke to staff members of the centre, as well as Garrett Emerson, the chief executive, about how they are dealing with the increase in demand on the NHS 111 service. They heard the staff say members of the public can help alleviate pressure on the service by using advice available online at nhs.uk web link before contacting 111. People thanked the royal couple for raising awareness of the NHS 111 workers. One person wrote, "Thank you. 111 has been vital over these past few weeks and been the first port of call for many anxious people. Their work deserves to be recognized. Another person said, "Thank you, Cambridges. Thank you for showing leadership. Thank you for stepping it up for everyone." A third person wrote, "The apple didn't fall far from the tree. You share your grandmother's sense of duty and the country loves you for it." Another user said, "Thank you for supporting our wonderful NHS staff." But one person suggested Kate and William shouldn't have made the visit in person. They wrote, "Please stay in and thank them via Skype." Another person simply said, #stay home. Yesterday the Queen issued a message to the nation on the coronavirus outbreak and said the UK is entering a period of great concern and uncertainty. She praised the work of scientists, medics and emergency staff, but added that everyone has a vitally important part to play. The monarch, who will turn 94 next month, said she and her family stand ready to play our part.